Míle Fáilte, Rove go Tránna Héarn. Good evening and welcome to our Irish Christmas Show special. Program, then to take a lot of you back, memories of Ireland, and to take you back now to Ireland with images of Ireland. Just seen the beautiful images of Ireland, and we've got a beautiful person from Ireland here, and I want to welcome Anne Anderson, the First Secretary of the Embassy of Ireland. And Anne, it's a great pleasure having you with us here this evening representing the Embassy.
Thank you, Pat. I'm really delighted to be here, and all of us at the Embassy are very pleased that you're holding this show focusing on Christmas in Ireland. I'm sure a lot of your audience will enjoy hearing about Christmas in Ireland, and I'm very happy to be here.
Great. Well, first of all, I know that you have an awesome job at the Embassy of Ireland, and I understand you have a double job there as First Secretary and also Press Secretary. Could you tell us a little bit what that entails?
Well, awesome is a big word. It's certainly an exciting job and a challenging job. It is, as you say, almost two jobs in one. We're a small foreign service and we all have to do a certain amount of double jobbing. I'm First Secretary on the political side of the Embassy, which involves a lot of political reporting on developments in the United States. But I'm also Press Officer, which means Present Information Officer, which means that I inform people about what's happening in Ireland. I talk to the media and to members of the general public, keep them up to date with what's happening in Ireland, and answer any questions they may have. And they do have lots and lots of questions.
I'm sure they do. Now, I've been in this area a little over 24 years, and you're the first lady that has been First Secretary, I think, and first, and also the Press Secretary. Am I right?
That's right, yes. I was delighted to have the honour to be the first woman in that job. But I think you'll see more and more women at the Embassy as time goes on. We find more women coming into our foreign service in Ireland, and naturally I think it's a very good trend.
Now, they move you around a lot too, I think, after you're here a certain amount of time.
Yes, the normal period of assignment here is round about 4 years. I spent 4 years in Switzerland at the end of the 70s, and then I went back to Dublin for 3 years, and I came here to the Embassy in 1983. So that's about normal, 4 years here, 4 years at home.
Now, what part of Ireland do you come from?
I'm from Clonmel in County Tipperary. Neither of you, I see, is from Munster, so I'm very happy to be here representing the province of Munster. Clonmel is the main town in County Tipperary. And of course everybody has heard of the song, It's a Long Way to Tipperary.
That's
so
right.
I don't think any of your audience will have any difficulty in relating to Tipperary.
Well, you see, it's nice now to have Munster represented as well.
I'm proud to be representing Munster here.
Well, it's great having you here, and I know that you've got a very pretty heavy schedule, especially this time of the year, and I know coming up to St. Patrick's Day it's the same thing. Will you be going home for the holidays? Or?
No, I'm staying here for Christmas. I was back in Ireland just last month, and I have a husband and a baby daughter here in Washington, so I'll be spending Christmas with them here in Washington. I'll be enjoying an American Christmas this year with a few Irish touches.
Good. What's your husband's name?
My husband's name is Martin Wheeler.
And the baby?
My baby's name is Claire.
Claire?
Yes, indeed. Happy and joyful Christmas and peace and prosperity in 1987. Nullag Hana Yves Golair, which in the Irish language is a happy Christmas to you all.
And it was lovely having you, and I would like to thank you on behalf of myself and Ed, and also the Embassy staff, because they're so good to everything in this Irish-American community throughout the year. And we want to wish you and all of the staff a very happy Christmas.
I appreciate that very much, Pat and Ed, and I'll bring back the good wishes to the Embassy.
Thank you
for having me.
Now we want to talk to Ed, and Ed is going to tell us about the decorations and the ivy and the holly.
Well, Pat, in Ireland, of course, the decorations nowadays it's more modernized, but back in my day, what I remember is that to decorate the home, we went out into the garden and we'd pick some holly, and of course, you know, Ireland with the climate it has, the holly and the ivy, which was another very green traditional means of decorating the pictures and, you know, totally around the home, was gathered up in the garden, and it was very much a family affair. Also, paper such as this was woven into a very pretty little setup that was, you know, draped from one end of the room to the other, and usually the center of the decorating throughout the home, and the woman of the home usually always made sure that this took place. There was always a nativity scene because religion plays a very important part in the Irish Christmas. It is a true celebration of Jesus' birthday, and as I said, the woman of the house makes sure everybody keeps in line and gets in that direction, so that Christmas is a very joyous time, a family time in Ireland. And I believe there's a lighted window tradition that has originated, if I'm not mistaken, in Ireland. I believe you have more on that, Pat.
Okay, what you're looking at here is a candle lighting. Well, that's not hard to see, but it's stuck in a turnip. Now, a turnip was the way of balancing the candle in the windows, and people wonder, well, why you put a candle in a window in Ireland? Well, there was a lot of different reasons for it. Some said that when the Holy Family were passing by, if they saw the candle lighting, that this was a home of welcome for them, or to stop by. But in the Irish, going back into the 17th century, which was the penal days in Ireland, they were really used for, as you know, during the 17th century, Mass was banned, the priests were banned from saying Mass, and the churches, there was no churches or anything like that in Ireland. And Mass had to be said and prayers had to be said, and at the Christmas time the families would put these candles in the windows, and if the priests were in the area and that and they saw the candles, they would come and pray for the people in that home. And of course the English would not allow it, and they asked the people, why were these candles put in the window? And of course they told them that it was for the family passing through, and if the candle was there, it was to welcome them. But the Irish people were using it for a different cause. So that's what the candle was, and it was to show the light. Some said it was to guide the wise men. But maybe I think it was the 17th century was the one. But anyway, this was the candle lit in the window, and you could see them for miles and miles around in the different communities in Ireland. And it was also decorated with the holly and with the ivy. Pieces of holly are in it here, and also pieces of ivy, and it was very simple. This here is called an Irish Christmas cake. That's right, with a piece of holly stuck on it. There was also the plum pudding, which was used in Ireland as well. Now this icing here and all these little fancy little, I used to like these as a child in Ireland, these little round pebbles, as we call them. They're sweet, they're very sweet. And this is the cake, and usually the icing is like a rock. It's so hard to cut through it. So you had to have good teeth to eat Christmas cake in Ireland, but it was delicious when you got it out. And basically this is the same type of a cake that they used for the weddings, and they still use them in Ireland for weddings. Not sponge cakes, but the good old fruit cake. I'll give you have a look at it here. Delicious fruit cake. Looks so good. I'll even have a piece of it. It sure is good. Delicious. And Theresa O'Brien did all the decorating and that, and she done a wonderful job, and she also did the candle. And we want to talk about something else now, leading into the Christmas time. Of course, storytelling is a big part of the fun at Christmas. And we've got a storyteller that's one of the finest outside of Ireland. And I'd say even better than that, if he was in Ireland, he'd be one of the best. He's all the way from a little place in County Kerry. Excuse me, that cake is getting to me. The icing is sticking in my throat. But from a little place called Farnfore in the County Kerry. And he's going to tell you a little story about Ireland and what it means to him. And his name is John Barry.
The first Christmas cards that came to Ireland were from America. Beautiful Christmas cards, pictures of St. Joseph and the Holy Family. But there wouldn't be much thought of those Christmas cards if there wasn't a picture of George Washington or General Grant inside in the envelope. So there was a man down the street from me that said he'd open the envelope and shake it, and if a picture didn't fall out of George Washington, he wouldn't bother reading the Christmas card. He'd say, what bank could cash a Christmas card? Of course, the topic in conversation around the Christmas time about America was very great in Ireland. There wasn't a man, woman, or child throughout the length and breadth of Ireland that didn't have somebody in America belong to him. And they'd always wonder who's the first Irishman to set foot in America. A fierce argument came up in our house one night between Connie Casey, a thin, wiry little fella, and Betty O'Brien about who was the first Irishman to set foot in America. Weren't they caught shot for a topic of conversation? I'll tell you now, says O'Brien, a man of huge proportions and a historian to boot. The first Irishman to set foot in America was St. Brendan the Navigator. And when was that so, says Casey? I'll tell you now, says O'Brien, or I wouldn't have brought it down or up. He says St. Brendan was born in the Phoenix in the county Kerry around the year 600 AD. And he died in Annacoon in the county Galway around 680 AD. Now you'll take it he did the navigating in the prime of his life, say between 640 and 680. You add up all those figures and subtract it from the year we're in today, and you'll come within a hen's kick of 1,500 years since the first Irishman set foot in America. Is that all you know, says Casey? Irishmen were going to America long before that. Can you prove it, says O'Brien? I can, says Casey, or I wouldn't have brought it up. My uncle, Tyke Fleur, was in a sailing vessel one night about 200 miles out of the coast of County Clare when they were becalmed, and they threw out the anchor and they went to bed. What did they want up for? But in the morning when they got up, there was a stiff breeze blowing, and they pulled up the anchor. And what do you think was caught in the hook of the anchor but the wheel of a horse's car? And what does that prove, says O'Brien? It proves, says Casey, that Irishmen were going to America by road before the flood.
And now it is time for a Christmas song, and we're going to go to Belfast representing Ulster. We've got Seamus Kennedy. He's accompanied by, from Oldcastle in the County Meath, Brendan Sheridan.
Come closer to the fire, my friends, and sit a while with me. I'd like to talk of Christmas time when I was young and free. The holly gleaming on the wall, a turf fire burning bright, the candles on the windowsill that filled the world with light. A virgin snow upon the thatch, the robin's chirpy song, the postman whistling gaily as he trudged his way along. The little church down in the glen, the people's eyes aglow, the singing of the midnight choir with all heads bowed down low. The wren boys coming down the lane, their faces bright and gay, the dancing of the boys and the girls, it would steal your heart away. The postcards on the mantelpiece from lands across the sea, all Christmas time in Ireland was a golden memory.
And thank you, Seamus and Brendan. That was just great. Christmas in Ireland is a very festive time of the year, and there's a lot of dancing going on. Step dancing is very traditionally Irish, and this evening we have a young lady with us who will show us how the Irish jig is done. And at this point, we'll turn you over to Miss Kathleen Troy.
And now we're into the Wren-Buys Day. This is an exciting day in Ireland. It's the day that the young people, the older people and the young ladies, we all get out and we go to collect money for the wren. Now what's the wren? Well, let me show you what the wren is. This is the wren. He's the king of all birds, this little fella. And the story goes, the wren, the king of all birds, St. Stephen's day she was caught in the furze. Up with the penny and down with the can, a penny or tuppence to bury the wren. Now, how did he become the king of the birds? Well, one day all of the birds got together and they had a contest to see which one was going to be king of the birds. So they decided whichever would fly the highest would be the king. So the eagle represented America, the little wren represented Ireland, the hawk represented England, and all over the world, and they all gathered and they decided away they went. So they kept going, and at 33,000 feet it looked like all the birds were gone and there was nothing left, only the eagle from America, flying proudly and exhausted. And he says, I've gone far enough, I'm exhausted. I'm the king of the birds. So all of a sudden the little voice says, aha, no you're not. I'm the king of the birds. And away went the wren. The wren cheated a little. The wren hid on the eagle's wings, and away went the wren. So that's how come the wren is the king of all birds. Now, this is not a real wren. We don't kill birds. And this is the bush. And they carry the bush around trying to collect money to bury him. Now this little wren was beautifully cut out and designed for me by a young man by the name of Michael Foley, and I want to thank him so much for designing the wren for me. But the Wren-Buys is exciting. The musicians get out and they play and they go around, and the dancers perform at the houses throughout Ireland to collect money, not to bury the wren, so they can have a good time that night and get out and get drunk and eat plenty and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, without further ado, let's listen now to the Wren-Buys and the dancers of Ireland. All right, that was beautiful, and we want to talk to these young people. And can you tell us your name?
Maura McMahon.
Maura, you're panting. Are you tired?
Yes.
How long have you been dancing?
This is my 7th year dancing.
What's your favourite dance?
Hornpipe.
The hornpipe. And what's your name?
Kathleen Glenn.
And Kathleen, what's your favourite?
I like the jig.
You do.
Yes.
Where do you go to school?
I go to Immaculata.
Okay. And this young man, you seem like you're lost with all these lovely ladies. Can you tell us your name?
Michael Vaughn.
And Michael, how long have you been at it?
11 years.
Do you really enjoy the Irish dancing?
Yes.
And what's your favourite?
Hornpipe.
The hornpipe. And this young lady, you're a tall one, and what's your name?
Nola Moore.
And how old are you, Noel?
15.
15. And how long have you been at it?
8 years.
8 years. And what is your favourite dance?
Real.
The reel. Okay, well, we would like now to talk to the teacher of this group, and we've got Laureen O'Neill James. And Laureen, you're synonymous in this area with dancing. Of course, your mother, Lord of Mercy, was the lady that started it all. And can I ask you about all the different costumes that the young people are wearing here?
Yes, Pat, they're wearing competition costumes. It means a costume they have designed themselves. Now, Maura, this is her first time wearing the blue and white. Of course, our ladies' colours, which is lovely. Of course, in Irish dancing, we usually wear green, white and gold, but it is nice to have a variety of colours, particularly being Our Lady with blue.
Now, you have a traditional costume for your dance school. These are their individual costumes, is that right?
Right. They design them themselves, and the traditional costume my mother and I designed for our school, and it is in the tricolour, the green, white and gold.
Laureen, we want to thank you for bringing your group here today. It is wonderful having you. Of course, you do an awful lot of the dancing in the community, and if the people are interested, of course, it's the Laureen James School of Dancing, and we're going to have you back in a few moments with another dance.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Very nice indeed. We do thank you. We're coming to the close of the show, and what I'd like to do at this point is thank our guest, John Barry, for doing a wonderful job, and also Laureen O'Neill James and her dancers. And I want to wish all of you out there a very happy Christmas.
Thank you, Ed. And again, I want to thank our First Secretary, Anne Anderson from the Embassy of Ireland. I also want to thank Seamus Kennedy and Brendan Sheridan for performing, and also to the staff here at 56. They were just beautiful. They were great for this, our first Christmas show, or our first Irish show, and the next one will be coming up in January the 11th. So, to all of you, and also to Pat and Rose Malone for their wonderful help, and also for Pat Katie. So, without further ado, it would be beautiful to close this show with the beautiful Silent Night.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother shine, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Be a cune, be a vigil, cognizant, di sharet, di Kalish Krishna Kalu Goshe Krishna Kalu Goshe